So you're going to get your fill of lawyers. I get to follow Jim, who got to follow all the the emotional stuff. There will be no crying during mine by anybody. I'm a tax lawyer, and that should give you pause. That should give you a lot of pause. That should give you a lot of pause. And how do you come to do that? I mean, what kind of twists and turns lead you to that? Well, I was in law school, and this was a scary, scary stuff, and everybody else was afraid of it. And I decided, well, that's for me, because maybe there will be fewer people who do it, and I don't have to be afraid of it because it's only money and it's not my money. So I was a great collector of cartoons at one time, and I would collect tax law cartoons, and it would surprise you that there is such a thing. But there was this one that was a favorite of mine, with the two guys looking at a piece of paper, and one guy was clearly from the IRS, and the other guy was clearly the taxpayer. And the IRS guy is saying, no, it's this one. It's this number here. This is why you have to go to jail. So this is why I do tax law, because I don't think anybody should pay more than a nickel more than they owe in taxes. I think the government does a miserable job of treating its citizens the way they treat them, and that's why I do what I do. So my theme for what I've learned first is I've learned the same lessons over and over. You never learn it and put it in a drawer and it's done. You keep learning it. And my themes are love and redemption. And the first is love. People love it when you clearly love what you do. It makes you interesting. It makes you seem like you know what you're talking about. It makes you attractive. But don't fall into the trap of thinking that they love what you do. They don't care what you do. They're either indifferent or they love what they do. And so there's a story. I'm a young punk lawyer in a big firm in Cleveland, and I'm sent up to Toronto for a meeting. And my job is to explain to these guys in Canada that the business plan they have is going to cause them a lot of taxes and a lot of regulation. They were building a plant in Canada. There was a plant just like it in North Carolina, and they said, we're going to take a shadow force for a couple years and move them down to North Carolina so they can learn how the plant works, because we're building the exact same plant with the exact same technology. So I had done all the research, and tax lawyers are research rats. I mean, if you can find the answer, you just send the rats out to find it, and I was one of those guys. So I had done this work, and it was peerless. It was perfect. It was seamless. And I said, look, you're going to be in the country longer than the treaty allows. You're going to be in North Carolina longer than the law permits. You are going to have to register. You are going to have to get ID numbers for all these people. You're going to have to withhold North Carolina taxes and U.S. taxes. And they said, thank you very much. We appreciate that. This is exactly what we thought you would say. We ain't going to do it. And I was stunned. I was stunned. But what I forgot was they knew that I loved what I did. And they knew that I was correct on the law. But the law bumped up against the business decision. They said, we ain't going to do it because we're not in the U.S. system now. We're not in there. We come over and we do business in such a way that we do not have to register in the United States or in any state. And the same is true in North Carolina. And once we're in the system, Mr. Maxwell, you're not going to be able to tell us how to get out. So we will take our chances. And as I said, I was stunned because my perfectly constructed advice was being rejected. But I learned a lesson. They didn't love what I did. They loved what they did. And that business decision trumped the tax law decision. And I learned a lesson very early, and it's a very important lesson now. You still have to be right. You still have to give the advice, but you can't be upset if the advice isn't taken. So that's love. That's the love part. The other part is redemption. And I know I've left a lot, for those who are bluegrass fans, I've left a lot out of the middle. I mean, there's no death, but there is redemption. And the redemption part is, and I'll think about it in a second. The redemption part is the most important thing that you have to know every day when you're in the service business. when you're in the personal service business, the most important thing you have to know is all of those things that you don't know. And so I'm sitting there in the big firm in Philadelphia, and I'm a partner. And I'm a federal tax lawyer. I don't do state and local taxes. I moved from Ohio to Philadelphia. I don't know from state and local taxes. And the partner who sat next to me in the next office over was the state and local tax guy. He was the state and local tax guy for Philadelphia. He left. He went to another firm. Partner in charge came and said, Morgan, you're now the state and local tax guy. Here's his file cabinet. Take stuff home every night. For the next year or more, I was terrified every day. There were cases pending. There were things I had to do. I didn't know any of this stuff, but I was a reasonably smart guy. I figured it out. Nobody went to jail. Nobody had their eye poked out. And within about a year, I'm a state and local tax lawyer, because what I understood was that the most important thing for me to know was all that stuff in all those file cabinets that I didn't know. And that's the kind of thing that keeps you hungry. It keeps you sharp. It keeps you from becoming or being complacent. And when you're in the personal service business, that's always a good lesson to learn. So that's my story.